The ancient game of 58 holes is attested through its wooden game boards, many of which have been found in North Africa and the Near East. Dating from the Middle Bronze Age onwards, it was popular across a broad geographic region and amongst several different cultures. Many studies have looked into the typology of the game boards, such as their shape and the patterns of the holes, as well as the rules the game is likely to have had. However, little research has been done on cultural connections and how the game spread. A new study looks at the examples that have been excavated from Azerbaijan. Unlike the other examples, these are carved into stone rather than onto wooden game boards, and this fact, amongst others, offers up some interesting possibilities with regards to the game's origin and transmission. From the Middle Bronze Age to the Iron Age, a board game featuring 58 holes was played across a vast geographic region encompassing Egypt, the Levant, Mesopotamia, Iran, and Anatolia. It's referred to as the game of 58 holes or hounds and jackals, the latter because of gaming pieces which were found that are shaped like the heads of hounds and jackals. It's not certain what its original name was, but two words found in an ancient Egyptian tomb and in an ancient Egyptian letter may refer to the game. These were Ibs and Pati Abzu. A new study published in the Journal of European Archaeology discusses game boards excavated from the Absaron Peninsula and Gobustan Reserve in Azerbaijan, and what these may mean in terms of cultural connections during the Middle Bronze Age. It also argues that these game boards, along with other examples in the broader region, might argue for a different origin than what's generally thought. The game was played on boards with 2 rows of 10 holes in the center and an arc of 38 holes around them. Some holes are connected by lines. The holes are designed to receive game pieces in the shape of pegs. There are 3 main wooden game board shapes: the axe blade or shield style, which has mostly been found in Egypt, the violin shape, which is the most common and has been found in Mesopotamia, the Levant, and Iran, and the oval platter style that is the least common to have been found. The oldest board discovered so far is from a tomb at El Asasif that's thought to have belonged to an official of the pharaoh Mentuhotep II and dates to between 2064 and 1952 BCE. Another early game board was excavated from Kultepe in Anatolia and dates to between 1885 and 1836 BCE. Since the earliest game board to be found came from Egypt, and there are many more examples that have been excavated there, it's long been suggested that the game of 58 holes originated in the Nile Valley. However, since it also appears to have been popular in southwestern Asia, the authors of the paper argue that it may have been invented there instead. In Egypt, the game seems to have died out after the Middle Kingdom, but outside of Egypt, its popularity did continue through the middle of the first millennium BCE. Much of the research into the game looks into the board types and the rules it's likely to have had, but little has been done to research its cultural context and how the game and its rules may have been transmitted between regions. One analysis of the game boards carried out in 2013 showed that, as features of the board changed with time, these tended to be transferred to other regions and cultures as well. It seems unlikely that the game's geographic distribution was a result of conquest, and more likely that it was the result of trade. This previous study did not include the game boards from Azerbaijan, so the paper I'm discussing today looks specifically at what those can tell us about cultural influences in the broader region during the Middle Bronze Age. In Azerbaijan, the game boards are not wooden but are pecked into stone. One example comes from the Rock Shelter 7 at Cap Marley in the Gobustan National Reserve. This shelter has occupation layers dating to the Middle Bronze Age, the Iron Age, Antiquity, and the Middle Ages. It's thought to have been used as a seasonal shelter for cattle herders during the winter. Many petroglyphs have been documented at the site, and excavations have yielded structures, ceramics, obsidian and flint fragments, and clay lamps. The board belonging to the game of 58 holes was found at the shelter's southern entrance. It's stone pecked with shallow depressions. Some of these depressions or cupules are connected with lines, just as in the wooden boards found in other parts of southwestern Asia and Egypt. It has 2 parallel lines in the center. each made up of 11 cupules and an arc of 34 cupules surrounding these lines. Some of the rock is damaged, so there would have been more cupules on the right side originally. A zigzag channel carved on the left is unique, since other game boards do not have it. However, a board from a different game in the British Museum has something similar. That particular stone and neighbouring stones that make up an ancient wall had been covered in soil at some point, probably to improve living conditions, and it's likely this took place during the first occupation in the Middle Bronze Age. This means the game board dates to this early period before being covered up and being no longer accessible. Also in Azerbaijan, 3 boards were found at Agdas-Dusu in the Abason Peninsula. At this settlement, many large stone slabs featuring petroglyphs have been found, along with ceramic models of wheels, cylindrical stands, flat braziers with straight walls, and butter churn fragments. 2 versions of the game are pecked onto a large stone in the middle of the settlement. It's no longer in situ since the area has been built up, but it has been moved to the Gala Museum. The games sit 1.5 meters apart. One of the layouts is similar to that found at Cap Marley, but the second, less well-preserved example is a little bit different, but still recognizable as the game of 58 holes. A third example with an unknown find location also has a similar pattern to those at Agdas-Dusu. Another example comes from the Kurgan Desert near the settlement of Yeni Turkam. The mound of Kurgan 40 was excavated 20 years ago and measures 22 meters in diameter. Many ochre-polished ceramics were found in it. Such ceramics have been found at other Kurgans and are thought to have belonged to the Uzalik Tepe culture who occupied the region in the Middle Bronze Age. In the southwestern part of the Kurgan stone platform, a rectangular structure measuring 2 by 3 meters was found. Close to it, archaeologists found ceramic fragments, animal bones, a hearth and ash, leading them to suggest it functioned as an altar. It's in this area that a game board was discovered, along with the schematic image of a goat. Although not well preserved, 2 carved parallel lines surrounded by an arc of cupules can be discerned. These lines look as though there were holes originally, but erosion or prolonged use caused the holes to merge into one another, creating lines. A 6th example comes from Kurgan 5 at Dubandi. It was found on the side of the Kurgan stone platform and had been covered in sand. This suggests it was in use prior to the construction of the Kurgan. This Kurgan has been dated to the Middle Bronze Age. The game layout is not as well carved as the other examples from Azerbaijan and has seen a lot of surface damage. Its cupules are oval-shaped rather than circular like the others. There's little archaeological evidence from the Middle Bronze Age in the Caucasus. This is mainly because during that time, groups transitioned from a sedentary lifestyle to one of mobile subsistence, meaning less settlements were created. The connections between the Caucasus and Mesopotamia, Anatolia, and the Levant are better understood in the Chalcolithic and early Bronze Age. What archaeological evidence there is dating to the Middle Bronze Age comes mostly from tombs. On the Absaron Peninsula and in the Gobustan Reserve, rock art from this time period is similar to that in Mesopotamia, which does suggest a connection between the regions. In other parts of the Caucasus, evidence has been found for Middle Bronze Age connections to other cultures in southwestern Asia due to the movement of seasonal pastoralists. For example, there's evidence for the trade of tin. The authors of the paper suggest that the game of 58 holes spread from southwestern Asia to other areas as a result of cultural exchange. Since the game boards from Azerbaijan are slightly different to those found in other regions, innovations must have been made to the game as it travelled. Another important point is that these are the only examples carved into stone, which makes them immovable, and they are also some of the earliest, therefore they are unlikely to have been imported. The board with the most similar layout to those from Azerbaijan is one of the ones excavated from Stratum 2 at Kultepe in Turkey. The game appears to have been popular amongst different cultures in different areas. From the elites of Middle Kingdom Egypt to pastoralists in the Caucasus, the game of 58 holes was played, but with some variations in rules. Attempts to associate different layouts, such as connecting lines, with an evolution in complexity of the game have not been borne out by the evidence. As more boards are analysed, it's clear that more sophisticated versions of the game also existed early on in its creation. Although it's not possible to confirm exactly when or where the game was invented, there's a strong argument that its origin was in southwestern Asia, where early versions of it exist and where its popularity was sustained over a much longer period of time than in Egypt. That's it. Thank you to my patrons and channel members. Don't forget to hit the like button if you didn't already, and I'll see you next time.